Hello there, everyone, and welcome to our January Leadership Spotlight, hosted by Inspiring Leadership. We're thrilled to have you join us with Haseena Patel and Shameema Patel of Leave No Girl Behind International. If you'd like to learn more about Inspiring Leadership events or the Inspiring Leadership community, you can find us online at www.inspiringleadership.community. Welcome, Haseena and Shameema. It's lovely to have you with us. We always like to talk about our bona fides as an international organization. Much of our structure is based in the US, but I would just like to point out that I am in Auckland, New Zealand, and you are joining us from South Africa. And so we are truly a worldwide organization. Welcome. How was your morning?
Thank you so much. Oh, it was good. It's sunny here in South Africa. It's 10:15 in the morning, and it's a good day. It's good to be here.
Excellent. It's lovely to have you with us. I wanted to begin with a few questions, and I realized I have so many questions for you. And as soon as I thought about it, I realized many of them will probably be answered in the first 10 minutes of your presentation. So what I would like to do is give a brief bio of the two of you, and then turn things over to you, and then we can have some questions at the end, if that's all right with you. Great.
Sounds great.
Then let me begin with a brief bio here. Haseena and Shameema Patel are sisters. They are activists, mind, body, spirit coaches, and the founders of Leave No Girl Behind International, LNGBI, a nonprofit empowerment organization based in South Africa. The organization is dedicated to empowering girls worldwide to find, respect, and embrace their voices, talents, and unique potential through leadership. Leave No Girl Behind International programs are based on the organization's 6 principles: love, strength, courage, freedom, equality, and unity. The organization focuses primarily on the development of self-worth, the missing piece. Haseena and Shameema connect this message through their mind, body, spirit coaching, which has impacted women internationally. We feel so blessed to have you with us in this space. Inspiring Leadership tries to bring in leaders from a lot of different fields, and I think you may be our first leaders speaking from the not-for-profit space and doing charitable work. And I have many questions that I'd like to address to that after you're done. But I think at this point, I'm going to turn off my camera and turn things over to the two of you. If you have any questions for me, just give me a shout. I am still there in the background, but please take it away.
Thank you. Such a privilege to be here. Everything in life begins with self-worth. It influences our thoughts, our words, our actions, our interactions. So self-worth is really the missing piece. Girls are taught to ask for permission. Boys are taught to just do it. And this really translates through life. Women are less likely to ask for a raise and more likely to accept lower pay. Women are less likely to boldly claim their ideas. They're more likely to wait for someone to ask for them. They always seem to be seeking outside validation because of the conditioning they received as girls. And women don't always count what they do as extraordinary when it is. Too often they're so used to being told that they're ordinary and they dismiss what they do. And this really is all the conditioning they've had. It's conditioning they've had since they were a child that creates a subliminal programming for girls who become women who feel like they need to be second. Leadership is not asking for permission from anyone else or waiting for someone to give you permission. It's giving yourself permission to boldly claim who you are and what you know. And for many of us women today, we didn't get to learn that. So how do we change that? We teach girls to claim their own voices and claim their leadership. We provide women a space to reclaim their leadership. Women come into this world as leaders, but it's conditioned out of them. How do we define leadership? Leadership to us is the aligning of your thoughts, words, actions with your innate individuality. It's a learned skill, and it's born out of self-worth. So all leadership begins with claiming personal sovereignty, and it begins with the freedom of mind, body, and spirit. A leader interacts with others when they're aligned in a way that is aligned with their deepest truth and in their thoughts, words, and actions. And that takes us to the missing piece of leadership, self-worth. So what is self-worth? You're living in your greatest sense of self-worth when you're living from your deepest truth in your thoughts, your words, your actions, your interactions. You're feeling productive, creative, inspired, in the zone. You feel a sense of clarity and purpose. You're consciously and unconsciously liberating others to live in their deepest truth just by being you. In other words, all the greatest qualities of leadership mean living in your greatest sense of self-worth. And really, when you consider that, when you raise your self-worth enough, no one can tell you who to be, what to do, how to behave, what is acceptable, and what you can and can't claim as yours. You can fully, unconditionally be who you are in every area of your life and unapologetically be you. And you can live a life that you choose. You become unstoppable, unlimited, and unbreakable. And self-worth is really the foundation that we build everything in our lives on. When you have a very strong self-worth, you can go into every area of your life with confidence, with clarity, and with purpose.
So how do we get this down to a tangible way of describing what we teach, what we do? When girls decide to take our programs, we teach according to the 6 principles of Leave No Girl Behind International: love, strength, unity, courage, freedom, equality. And when you teach a girl her own value, you helping her to step into her greater sense of self-worth, it translates through life. You're giving a girl the tools while she is young enough. And the story then becomes her stepping forward in leadership and claiming her voice in every area of her life. And we have a story like that. So we've been working with a number of girls in different schools. One of our programs is called the LNGBI Power Circle. Girls get together on a weekly basis, and they're able to. They've got a facilitator, and sometimes we facilitate, and they're able to just discuss what's pertinent to them. Ask questions. They get to Zoom with successful men and women around the world. They get to do community service and choose their community service projects. So one of our girls, Danny, she actually started when she was in grade 8, and now she has just finished school, just left school. And she started because she said that her mom said to her, well, why don't you join the Power Circle? It seems that it would help with confidence. She joined our Power Circle in grade 8, and she just grew. She just drank it all up and started suggesting things, and her leadership ability started to show. She felt she was in a safe space. She would suggest projects and so on. And together with a facilitator in this particular school, we would nurture that growth. And here she is. Last year, she suggested a project. The girls decided, and she was instrumental in this with a few other girls. They decided they're going to collect sanitary pads for girls in schools where they don't have sanitary pads. There are a lot of child-headed households in South Africa. So she thought that would be a great thing to do. In her project, she would go around from class to class asking for donations of sanitary pads and also money. One day she came to the grade 8 class, stepped in there and said to them, reminded them, remember your donations. One of the boys started making fun of this. She turned to him and said, what do you know about menstruation? And he looked at her and he said nothing. She said, well, I'm going to educate you. And she told the whole class all about, really educated them on what menstruation is, and the boys kept quiet. And in that moment, she'd educated the girls and the boys, and she'd made the girls know that this is a normal process. Do not be ashamed of who you are. And just that story in itself shows the development. Now, what happens when you have women, my generation of women, our generation, who maybe didn't learn these things as girls? We were sometimes taught to be polite, to just sit and keep quiet, to ask for permission, like Shameema said, instead of claiming who you are. What happens there? Well, every year since 2012, we have had an annual empowerment event. And it really focuses on self-worth. And I remember that was the first year, 2012, and my ex-principal was sitting in the audience. She had helped me organize a number of things. She was very good to us. She was sitting in the audience and watching this. We had a guest speaker. She attended the next year too. Well, a few years down the road, she said, she wrote a letter to us and she said, you know, my sister-in-law was in a situation where she wasn't in a great marriage and there was abuse. And she said, just because of what I witnessed and what came through from your events, I knew there was no doubt in my mind that she was coming to live with us and that she was getting out of there. And that's what it's all about. That's what focusing on self-worth really does. So here are 5 principles that we teach women, that we actually teach all genders through our mind, body, spirit coaching to lead from the space of your greatest self-worth. Growth, fill yourself to emptiness. Step into a greater sense of self-worth in the moment. We are created in a world created by us. Stand in your truth, become unbreakable, and then embrace your story, make it a part of you. So going into the first one, growth. How do you fill yourself to emptiness, as I call it? Well, we all have cycles in our lives, and whether you're in business, whether we're talking about the corporate world or it's your personal life, you're an online entrepreneur, whatever it is that you do, it doesn't matter. But you have periods where you take in the growth, you're watching the videos, you're reading the books, you're taking in the new ideas from people you admire, from mentors, and you're filling yourself. You start at this point of origin and then you spiral outwards. And then you get to a point where you feel so restless and you just want to do, you want to give all that out, everything that you've learned, everything that you've made your own, you now want to give it out. And that is what I call filling yourself to emptiness, because at the end of it, your intention, your deepest intention is to give that out to the world, to leave your legacy, to be you. And you then spiral, you're in your spiral, you spiral outwards, and then you reach a new point of origin where there's growth again. And again, you take in all the growth from the level you are at, and you get to the next level and you give it out to emptiness. So the first thing for that to happen, we need to get out of our own way. And the first thing that we teach is walk out of your history. You are not defined by your circumstances or by anything that you did in the past. That was an experience that got you to the growth level you are today. Every single experience, whether you define it as good or bad, gets you, it's a stepping stone. It gets you to the foundation of where you are, the foundation that you can build a legacy on. The second thing is take in what serves you, release what doesn't. And that can be very literal when you're taking in the books, the videos, conversations with mentors or conversations with people who are not mentors. You take in what serves you. Perhaps there's something that doesn't resonate and you don't need to take that in. And then you release what doesn't serve you. All those thoughts about expectations, about circumstances, about what you're supposed to be in society, what's traditional. Because really, who built that normal? And just make your own normal that resonates with you and release anything that doesn't. And then the last point under growth, to get out of your own way, give who you are to the world, not what the world asks of you, but who you are. When one is depending on expectations and what other people ask of us, then we are constantly looking to them for direction, for the next point that we could give out to them, that we could expand on. But when we're looking within what we're called to do, then we're able to give it out as if, you know, we can then give something original to the world, because that matters, and that's something that the world hasn't seen. And then stepping into a greater sense of self-worth in the moment. Well, what happens in practice when you are in a space where you are not aligned? Let's back up. First, we talked about asking permission instead of claiming who you are. At every point in your life, you're coming to a fork in the road. Am I going to ask for permission, or am I going to claim who I am? And I hear this from women especially when they're women in business, and it's a business of all genders. And a lot of times, women then feel like they have to hold back, or they have to ask for permission. Is that okay? Or they have to over-explain themselves to get a sense of validation from others. And honestly, this doesn't apply to everyone. So I don't speak for all women here. I'm speaking from experience, from the women I've talked to. So what happens in practice when you're in that space, you're in the meeting, you're in the board meeting, and you're not feeling aligned? Your self-worth isn't at its highest point, and you're not feeling aligned in mind, body, and spirit. So there are two things that, well, there are a number of things you can do in the moment, but I'm going to go into two things. The first is get yourself aligned. You realize you're not feeling your best. And this is something that you can do as you go into the meeting, as you're sitting down, before you even put forward your point. Go to the gratitude. I teach an unbecoming system. And that's something that I created. And they're different building blocks to get from your sense of low self-worth to your sense of your highest sense of self-worth. So gratitude is one of them. Usually we all have a list in our heads, and someone says, what are you grateful for? And we start listing, well, my family, my dog, my whatever it is. And instead, what do we feel grateful for in the moment? In the moment, you may not be feeling grateful for your teenager who maybe disrespected you. That's okay. You love your teenager. But just thinking about things in the moment. So you walk into that meeting and you're thinking, wow, sunshine. I'm so grateful for the sunshine. I'm grateful that I can breathe easier today. And just list things that you are grateful for. List at least 5. It just moves you to a higher vibration where you can just be. And immediately, when you're on a higher vibration, you're able to bring forth your point. You're able to align with who you are. You're able to just be. And then the second one is the empathy building block. Now, when we think of empathy, we usually think of imagining yourself in someone else's shoes, imagining how you'd feel, and usually it's associated with something unfortunate that happens. And look, that is a great thing. We need to be empathetic in that way so that we can help people. We can imagine how they'd be feeling. And it just makes us more sensitive. But how about flipping that for the purposes of being in that meeting and coming from your deepest sense of truth? How about going into empathy? We know who we are and who we've been. Think of a time in your life when you were either feeling confident, free-spirited, really carefree, when you felt accomplished, or you felt in the zone, or you were making a difference and you knew it. Just right now, think of that event. This is a great exercise. And whatever comes to you, it's not so much the event, but the event brings up these feelings, these emotions, how you felt in the moment. So already know that event before you walk into your meeting. So when you're in your meeting, recall the emotions from that event, recall that confidence, that free-spiritedness, that feeling that I am in the zone and I can do that. Then put forth your point and claim it. Don't ask for permission for it to be okay. So those are two techniques that I find has really helped me and helped other people. The third point, we are created in a world created by us. We can come from fear or we can come from freedom. And when we come from, let's take today's world, when we come from fear, we can see that there's a lot of fear consciousness in the world. We've had 2 very strange years. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. And we have been, everyone has different viewpoints and we disagree with each other, and that's okay. We can respect each other, we can disagree. So we have a choice. Do we tap into the fear consciousness or do we tap into freedom? And we decide. And we can have that come from within. We can actually say, well, where do I want to come from? And know that we don't have to come from this low space of self-worth, this fear. We can use the gratitude building block, the empathy building block. We can claim who we are, align with ourselves, mind, body, spirit, and we can say, well, I am coming from freedom, my highest sense of self-worth. Research everything you feel fear about. And then on the flip side, it's about the consciousness. Do we tap into the fear consciousness or do we tap into the freedom consciousness? We contribute to that consciousness just from what comes out from our energy that comes from within. And we also take in that consciousness, and that is a choice. So we have a saying in South Africa, it's a Zulu saying that I really love, Umuntu ngumuntu ngabantu. A person is a person because of other people. It takes a village, it really does. It takes a village for everything when we look at girls' empowerment. It takes a village to be able to teach girls, lead them into claiming who they are through our examples, through our thoughts, our words, and our actions. And then it also takes a village in today's world where, because of our differing viewpoints on how we should handle this whole situation we have, there is a lot of bullying. And a lot of people right now are just afraid to stand in their truth, afraid to say, this is what I believe, because they're afraid they're going to get backlash, they're going to feel victimized. But really, you need to ask yourself permission. No one can victimize you without your permission. So a person is a person because of other people. Who am I going to be to really create the world I live in, to bring that energy to other people, be responsible for the energy that I bring? And that's what we can do. We may not be able to, and maybe we don't want to change other people's opinions or have an effect on that or how they feel. We can't manifest in their experience, but we can say that I bring my energy to you? What energy do I choose to bring? Yeah. Standing in your truth. Stand in your truth, become unbreakable. Back yourself unconditionally. No explanation needed. And what that means is really not giving in to pressure, not giving in to the bullying, just being who you are. I was on the phone with my non-blood sister yesterday from New Jersey. Yes, we have a global family, and some of them are not related by blood. That's what makes the world special, right? And we were busy talking about, standing in your truth. And she was telling me about a conversation, and I said, but you know what? You said exactly what you believed. Anyone who was overhearing, anyone who saw what you were doing, even if they didn't come up to you and tell you, you spoke your truth, you liberated them to speak theirs. You liberated them in a way that you didn't even know. And I think that's really special, because a lot of people don't feel like they can speak their truth now in 2022. No explanation needed. You don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to validate anything. And believe me, I spent a lot of my life explaining myself. We grew up in apartheid South Africa, non-white. So when I stepped out of the safe haven of school and the safe haven of home, and I went outdoors just as myself, there was always an explanation ready. There was always almost a need to validate. And I didn't discover that until I was an adult. And now comes a time where I came into myself in my 30s. Took a long time. I'm a slow learner. And it was no explanation needed. I'm just going to be. And then also trust yourself. And that comes into everything in life. The other day, I'm a yoga instructor too. So the other day I was teaching a yoga class, and when you do an inversion like a headstand or a handstand, a lot of times you start with the wall. You start against the wall so that you don't injure yourself, and then you move away from the wall and you can do it. A lot of times people don't move away from the wall because there's that fear, and also there's a lack of trust in what they can do. So I had that experience as I was learning these poses, and I took the class outside yesterday and I said, okay, find a spot of shade. We are going to do a headstand. And there was a woman who'd never done a headstand away from the wall. And I said, you know what? You know how to fall. And if you feel that you trust yourself to a point, go only to that point. But you know that the grass is soft and it will be fine. Well, she did a headstand for the first time away from the wall. And isn't that what we do in life? And it's reaching a point of trusting ourselves. So how do we do it? It's so much easier said than done. Well, we come to a point where we can say to people that you're my safe space. You can say that to perhaps your family or friends or your partner. There's someone in your world who's your safe space. Practice. If you're going to a meeting tomorrow and you want to bring up an idea, say to them, I'm bringing up this idea. I want to practice. Here's a safe space. I want to trust myself as I bring the idea, as I birth this idea and bring it into the world. Can I use you as a safe space? Ask me questions. Be devil's advocate. And that's the way we build up trust in ourselves. Even just expressing our opinions to those close to us. If we feel that I don't want to express my truth in public, express it to those who are close to you. See how it lands. Feel that trust in expressing yourself, and then go out into the world. And the next point, embrace your story. make it a part of you. We talked about walking out of your history and your circumstances, because they don't define you. Anything that you perceived as bad or that you did in your past that you weren't proud of, that doesn't define you. You're never defined by your circumstances or by anyone else's expectations, but own your story. And I'm going to tell you a story now about how I committed my first crime at 3 years old, and I was aided and abetted by my mother. So it's a very personal story. I, like any 3-year-old, was shopping with my mom, and we were in town, and I needed to go to the bathroom. Well, picture it, 1978 in South Africa, and we're non-white. And there were 2 bathrooms in the vicinity. One said whites only, and the other one said non-whites only. And so, being non-white, my mom took me into the non-whites bathroom, and it was quite a mess. Apparently, it wasn't taken care of. So she marched me out and took me into the whites-only bathroom. I only remember snippets of this, but I think I was washing my hands when a white lady had come out of the stall to wash her hands, and she looked at my mom and said, "You're not supposed to be in here." And my mom turned around and replied to her, "Well, who are you, the toilet police?" And I always think it took so much courage for my mom to do that, to speak her truth. But what it taught me was in that contrast where I look back, and that was, hey, I have many more criminal stories, but I won't regale you with my criminal history now. But when I look back at that story and at others, then I see that how that was the contrast. But if there wasn't that contrast, would I have been what I call a spiritual activist today? Would I have seen inequality or gender inequality so easily? Or would I have been like all those people who don't even know that there's any gender inequality at all? So really, this was the moment where I was taught that you are worthy. And I didn't. I was very fortunate. Shameema and I went to a school run by Dominican sisters. We're not Catholic, but we went to the school, and we saw the nuns embrace everyone's beliefs, treat everyone equal, no matter the color of their skin or who they were. And I saw what South Africa could be long before it happened. And that was such a gift. So I saw the contrast and I saw the potential. And in owning our stories, we see that we can make it a part of us, even in the contrast. And that enables us to carry the message of leadership. It enables us to, well, do you, as the next point points out, do you, be your brand of crazy, be your brand of whatever it is that's you. And your story made that happen. Embrace it. And in the unbecoming system that I teach, I always teach about unbecoming who you are not. We come into the world as babies. No baby ever thinks, well, should I ask my mother for milk? You know, will I actually get this milk? Should I ask for a hug? The baby just comes in and cries. They expect the milk. They expect the hug. They expect everything that they need to be taken care of. And as we grow, we become children and young adults and adults. We take on the fears and the beliefs and the indoctrination of the village that raised us. And that is really not any criticism, because as adults, we instill fears and beliefs and indoctrination into the younger generation. It's what happens. And as we take on these beliefs as adults, we layer up, and it's not really who we are. So it's a matter of taking off these layers and becoming who we are not. It's almost like if you were a scissors, a stainless steel scissors, and the stainless steel scissors got coated with all sorts of rust, and it couldn't perform its whole function of cutting paper. What do we do with it? We put it in a jar of vinegar and take some time, and eventually the rust, the corrosion drops off, and we are left with this stainless steel scissors that's shiny and it's able to cut paper. The corrosion was not the scissors. The corrosion dropped off the scissors and became what it is not. And that's something that we all have to do. Just get back to our deepest truth and our greatest sense of self-worth. So right now, I'd also like to, on behalf of Shameema and I, just offer you a free 30-day membership as a gift to our Unbreakable Tribe, which is a group that we have. It's based on all the teachings I've talked about. It's a very supportive, collaborative group. And if you want to claim it, the link is below, patelunlimited.com. And you can just go put in your details. There is no obligation. Honestly, you just ask for your name and your email address, and we'd love to have you with us for 30 days if you want to continue the connection. And if you're interested in knowing more about our Leave No Girl Behind international programs, or you'd like to support the organization in any way, please feel free to email us. We'd love to jump on a Zoom call. If you want to connect with us in any capacity, we love meeting new people from around the world. Perhaps these 2 years have just made it possible where we can do that, and it's so much more widespread. So we'd love to jump on a Zoom call and just get to know you. It would be awesome. And you're welcome to visit our website, leavenogirlbehind.org.
I just want to add that the 5 principles that we share today, it's much of what we teach girls too. It's that on a level where girls haven't been conditioned yet.
Yeah. And
thank you so much to both of you.
Thank you. It's really, really awesome.
Now, when we began, I had said to you that I had several questions, and I had a feeling that your presentation would answer a lot of them, and that was absolutely true. But in listening to you, now I have a whole lot more. So first of all, I wanted to ask you regarding the organization, was there an inciting moment or incident or inspiration that was the moment that you knew this was the thing that you wanted to do, that led to the creation of Leave No Girl Behind International? And did you both come to that realization together, or was it something that you came to separately?
Oh, that's a great question. Do you want to?
You go first. Okay. Actually, I think it started with Haseena.
Well, I think that I was really created wanting gender equality. I mean, I remember being so young and just being really indignant about gender inequality. But as an adult, I was mentoring girls, and then I decided to write a book, and I thought, oh, how awesome, 1,000 women, successful women's words for girls. That would be so great, you know, to have 1,000 contributions. And then Shameema said, oh, let's do this together. And so that's what we started on. So as we started with this book, I used to listen to Hay House Radio, and I'm a great fan of Dr. Wayne Dyer. So I called into his radio show and I said to him, Dr. Dyer, what is the advice that you would give to your daughters? Because I know you have 6 daughters. So what advice would you give to them, the most important advice? And it was so awesome that I said, can we use this? My sister and I are writing a book. Can we use this in the book? And he said, yes, and it won't cost you a penny. And I'm saying this on national radio. And it was so awesome. And then we started talking about South Africa, and he talked about Madiba and Nelson Mandela and so on, and how we can create a change on the planet. And immediately the book shifted perspective just from that. It didn't become 1,000 contributions with words of advice. Some of it was about that, but it was, what can we do to change, make a change on the planet through girls' empowerment? So the title became Leave No Girl Behind, How to Help Girls Become the Change in Our World. And so we wrote that, and from there, that's when the nonprofit sort of flowed from there.
Excellent. That's a wonderful origin story. Now, it seems to me there are two prongs to what I want to ask you. First of all, you are an organization that trains young women, and really, as you said at the end, really anyone who is interested in how to become a leader. Is there any unique challenge to being the leaders of an organization that trains leaders? Do you find that the people that you train tend to come back and want to help you with more of the work?
Well, I think that because we're working with girls, they stay in the programs until they finish school, unless they've got too many commitments. But they don't sever their ties for the most part. They're contributing in some way, or they're coming on the Zooms when we have someone Zoom in. So things like that. And then Shameema's had an experience with one of our girls.
I think when you work with a group of girls, then what happens is all of them become leaders in their own way, but some of them are leaders who take what you teach and run with it and do their own thing. And we had an experience where we ran into one of the girls in town, and we actually thought through our program, she wasn't the most vocal. She wasn't the one standing in front saying, see me. So we thought, okay, she must have just been participating because it was at school. And a few years later, I ran into her in town, and she actually said to me that she started a women's project at her university because of what she learned. And she actually went into gender studies because of what she learned. And she's carrying forward that message of empowerment for women. So that was, it just shows you that it's not, the leaders are not the people you expect to stand up. And it's just a matter of giving everyone the opportunity. And some people are going to be the ones who do it quietly, and some people are going to be the ones who lead from the front.
Excellent. A question for you as the leaders of the organization itself. What are your greatest challenges as the head of the organization? So aside from the learning programming that you're doing, just running the organization from day to day, what do you find are the greatest challenges that you are dealing with?
I hate admin. I think we both do. So.
Just the paperwork in general?
I think it's also technology, because like we're based in Africa, so a lot of the girls we've worked with have been more locally than internationally. And it's, the resources that are available to those girls. And, technology isn't so, for example, the internet isn't so freely available in public school here. So it's a lot of things like that. And also having the time, because, you want like a 48-hour day sometimes. So
yeah, I find that is so true. And I find that in schools, there's so much focus on sports and culture and whatever, and getting into university, and the more activities you do. And I know that there are definitely girls who've come to power circles, come to the programs because they want to put it in their applications to university. And I totally get that. Right. And it does change them, and they participate. But the point is, because there's so many activities, I sometimes feel that, can we just focus on what's important? Nothing's going to count if a girl grows up and she doesn't know the signs of getting abused, if she can't claim who she is. And I want that to be a focus. That is, you know, such a point for me, because often girls go back to the culture or the type of place they came from in spite of their education. And it's all about what wins out. And sometimes it's a little heartbreaking. Like, I've heard of a girl who maybe got married a year or two after finishing school. And okay, there's nothing wrong with getting married, but I know where this road is going because I know the culture, and it's heartbreaking.
Yes. And schools don't necessarily see the value of, say, prioritizing teaching girls to stand in their own light and to claim their self-worth.
Mm-hmm. I come from an arts background myself, and I know that one of the challenges that a number of artistic directors of theaters have mentioned is simply getting people to understand exactly what it is that they do. And there was one artistic director in particular who said, the problem in the community that I live in is people think that the arts just naturally exists because it's a relatively well-off community. There has always been an artistic community. And so they don't think about the fact that it has to be supported in any way. And my question to you is, when you go out, it's obvious from the success that you've had and the longevity that you've had some good response. Do you ever run into a situation where a community or an organization, you really have to work hard to get them to understand exactly what it is that you do?
I think so, but it's so subtle compared to, you know, it just being obvious. So there have been times, for instance, where we've stood in the mall and the mall has given us the center court space for free, and we've stood there raising funds. You see, we hadn't been collecting funds and then just doing projects. As we needed the funds for a particular project, we'd go raise the funds in the mall. And we have a town where everyone knows our credibility. So they know it's going to a good cause and, you know, the funds will be used properly. So we're standing in the mall and Shameema makes jewelry. So she's selling bracelets and we're, you know, raising funds in different ways. And people will come and they'll give us money and they'll say, yes, I want to donate. Even people who don't know us, like, people want to donate to a good cause, and perhaps we look credible, so that's why. But then you get to the situation where we're having an event where the actual teaching was going on, and in the past we've had guest speakers coming down. And I mean, you know this, when one runs an event, you want there to be a lot of people, you want the guest speakers' words to go far and wide, you want it to be worthwhile for them. And you have this nervous feeling in your tummy, like, how many people are going to come? Because a lot of people just don't see the value in that. They want to donate, they want you to be successful, but to take in the teachings, well, why am I taking that in? So you've always got to kind of coat it with, like, the girls doing a talent show, or, you know, doing things like that, that makes it worthwhile for them, that the teachings themselves aren't what draws people.
Right. That's interesting. I don't know, you may or may not have noticed that I am a middle-aged white male. And I wanted to ask you, because you opened up the question before, and I promise, by the way, this will not be the last question, because a middle-aged white male should not have the last word in this conversation. But you had said that your programming was open to everyone. For leadership programming that is addressing someone like me, how does that leadership programming open up beyond the original mission of empowering young women?
Oh, that's such a great question. Shameema, do you want to go?
Well, I think that greater sense of self-worth, when they are coming from the place of strong leadership, they don't have those insecurities or the need to be better than, or the need to, they have more awareness of what's going on around them. So when you start interacting with different people, so, okay, you said you're a white male, right? You start interacting with a woman and a woman tells you her story. Like, for example, maybe how she feels when she has to walk to the car at night. You take that in and then that becomes part of you. So next time you're in an area where there's a woman walking a car, you're going to think about it. And, you're going to teach that to, say, your child or your son, so it's sort of like we educate each other through what we learn.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I also feel that it's wonderful to get those different energies, no matter what gender you are. So, for instance, in our Unbreakable tribe, we opened it to men as well, to all genders, but I'm going to say specifically like men, because it's so important to get that energy. And I think we women can also learn from men's experiences, from your experience as a white man. I mean, in this lifetime, I haven't been a white man, so it's something.
In this lifetime.
Yes, in this lifetime. And one can actually just learn to claim who you are more. Certainly, I've learned that through a lot of men. That, wait, why am I asking for permission? This is how you do it.
Yeah. Fantastic. Then I think this is actually a great place to sort of bring us in for a graceful landing. The final thing that I would like to ask you is keeping in mind everything that you've just said, if someone is looking to begin a journey of leadership, where is the first place for them to start or find inspiration? What's the first thing that you would advise them to do?
Well, I think it can start off very basic, depending on where they are. It can start with something as simple as asking yourself questions. What do you like? What don't you like? And in particularly with women, and again, I definitely don't speak for all women, but you find that a lot of women are so busy serving others around them that they forget who they are. Like, what do I like? What food do I like? What do I like putting on my body? What do I believe in putting in my body? All of those kinds of things. And just those simple questions, that already is a form of leadership, because leadership begins with being able to lead yourself, being able to be who you are. And what opinions do I have? And I'd say that consciously focus on it. Like, if you're watching something on TV or you're streaming something on the internet that's like a documentary, what is my opinion on that? What do I think? And what videos, what books, what teachings resonate with me? So, yeah.
I think it's being more consciously aware of your life. So as you move through a day, why am I doing this? Do I like doing this? Does this matter to me? Do I agree with this opinion? What would I rather be doing? It's just having more awareness of yourself in your own life.
Yeah. Because I always feel, whenever I'm introducing, say, the Unbreakable tribe, or I'm talking to clients or something like this, the one thing I always say, if it doesn't resonate with you, like if I'm telling them something and I say, if this doesn't resonate with you, then it's not for you. Because we're not all going to, everything we say is not going to resonate with everyone. Perhaps there's someone else out there who would say something where it does land with a person, and you say something and it hasn't. So I think it's just finding who they resonate with and what kinds of things they resonate with.
The Dalai Lama has a quote that I will paraphrase, which is, there isn't one remedy for all ailments. And likewise, there is not one inspiration for all people and all situations. And he has said before, just as you have, you take what is useful and what's meaningful to you and what works for you, and you leave behind what isn't working for you. And it seems like fantastic advice. So I think we are about at our time, and Haseena and Shameema, I cannot thank you enough. I had wanted to get you on the Inspiring Leadership roster for so long, and we finally got you. Thank you for taking the time. Again, for anyone who is watching this video live or on our YouTube channel, if you would like to reach out to Leave No Girl Behind, that is at www.leavenogirlbehind.org. And the offer that Haseena and Shameema have made, if you'd like to investigate that, that is at patelunlimited, all one word, .com, and that is in the chat, and you'll also find it on the last slide of their slide presentation, so be sure to check it out. And from all of us at Inspiring Leadership, you can find us at inspiringleadership.community. Please have a wonderful day and keep your eyes open for other events on the Inspiring Leadership platform. In the meantime, thank you to our guests, and thank you to all of you for listening. And hopefully we'll all be in touch soon. All right. Take care, all.
Thank you. Such fun.
Bye-bye. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.